Today we have a Melody and Han, and they both are homeschool mom. And then I would like to have them to share some of their experience and testimony to talk about the homeschool. So Han, you want to share a little bit your background?
Okay, so I came to the United States in year 2000 for my graduate school study. So then I have more 4 kids. Now they are 19, 16, 14, and 10. Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, I have 4 kids. They are currently 19, 19, 18, and 16 years old. And we've been homeschooling. Nathan's been homeschooling since he was young, but my 3 other kids, they've been in public school and also Christian schools as well.
So the first question I would like to ask is why did you two decide to have homeschooling? So maybe Melody, can you share with us first?
Yeah. So I did not want to homeschool, but my husband always envisioned us homeschooling. So we were having a discussion about homeschooling. And he said, well, why don't we just go to a conference? So we went to this conference, and the guy who's a pastor said that, I've been having an affair. I go, what? An affair? He says, yeah, I've been having an affair with the Church of Christ, which means he has been working so hard that he has neglected his family. So I said, oh, okay, that's really interesting. He says, have you been neglecting your family in the midst of ministry and just doing life apart from your kids? So I thought about that. And then on his screen, he said, how many minutes, or before that, he says, what do you want for your children? And he says, do you want them to be athletes? Do you want them to be very knowledgeable? Do you want them to be good people? Do you want them to be Christians? So of course I said, we want them to be good Christians, right? So, and then he put up the next screen. He goes, well, how many minutes do you spend on each day on discipling them? How many minutes do you spend each day in their extracurricular activities and in academics? And he says, does this add up to what your vision is? You say you want a good Christian, so are you doing this for your mission? And then Keith and I talked about it, and says, wow, our kids spend so much time in school, emphasizing extracurricular activities, academics. We don't really have time to develop their character and their Bible studies. And so we thought about that, and we decided to pursue homeschooling. But this is because people have talked to us before. There's a homeschooling family that talked to us, and they were at church. They went on a missions trip, and their kids were up there speaking. And I said, wow, their kids are only teenagers and they're talking to adults. They have no problem talking to anyone in a good, deep conversation. And then we went to a homeschooling conference, and we saw all these moms with 10 kids or 8 kids, and they are able to say, wow, our time together has been such a blessing, and our family are discipling one another. So we decided I said, okay, I'll try it for the first year. And if I don't like it, then I'm not doing it. So we tried it, and has been a wonderful thing. I think I kept on testing God in a sense. I just said, okay, God, if you want us to do this, then, can you do this? Like Kara and Grace said, Mom, can we learn Chinese? And I said, well, I don't know anyone who can teach Chinese. So 2 weeks later, God answered a prayer, and Han, who's on this screen, came along. And every time we ask for something, God always provides. And that's the amazing thing. Even now, our kids, 2 of them are in college. I wanted them to have the experience of high school, all the proms, all the sports that they don't have in a homeschooling environment. So we pray for that. And you know what? God provided Nathan to be in, a volleyball team at the local high school, provided prom for Grace and Kara. It's a debate team. Every time we pray, God answered. And so he has been very faithful with us along this journey.
Mm-hmm. So how about Han? What do you think your decision to have homeschool?
So for my background, I grew up in China. So homeschooling was totally foreign to me, right? Even later, I heard some other families were homeschooling. I thought it would never be me because I cannot do it. So the really direct reason for me to homeschool is when Melody homeschooled. And because her son and my second child, they're the same age. And so Melody actually offered to take my son in and just homeschool him when he was in preschool, like 3 year old. And at that time, I put my son into a Christian private school for preschool, but it didn't work well for him. So then I just figured, okay, I just give it a try and see how that worked in the homeschool setting. And then it really amazed me. Like in 3 months, I remember when he was in school, they were learning letter from A to G. And my son only remember ABC and then forget all the others. And then when he went to Maddie's homeschool, in 1 week, he mastered all 26 letters. And he enjoyed singing and making crafts. So like that year went really like wonderful and it surprised me. So the second year, I pulled out my daughter. She was going to enter the 3rd grade in a public school. So I pulled her out and we start homeschool together. And with Melody, as she shared, so we teach different subjects and then we get together once a week. So we start our own small homeschool co-op at that time. It's been great since that time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it seemed to me you guys already homeschool at least maybe 10, 15 years, right? So I believe that difficulty come up all the time. So when you face the difficulty for homeschooling, how can you resolve or can sustain you to still continue? So maybe Han, you share first, you can decide.
Okay, so I think the biggest difficulty is, and it's always be, is the world around us. The world is against us, right? And also the voice is so loud, try to distract us. So at the beginning, the difficulty is like my family members, like my mom, my in-laws, or even my friends, they all have the Chinese background, so they didn't understand. So they always try to persuade us to send my kids back to school setting. And then every year still you can see, oh, this, they have school have this, the other kids have this, I should do this, I should do that. So always like you want to do a lot of stuff and then you feel your schedule really full. And that is hard. A lot of time I feel not measure up or too stressful. So the way we do it is like, I'm really grateful for the conference we go to every year, the Illinois Christian Home Education Conference. So over there, like every year we reflect, reevaluate, and also we think about the vision we had at the beginning. So try to refocus, try to come back to the right path. This is probably the key, the biggest difficulty, and it's ongoing all the time.
Mm. How about Melody? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree with Han. I think because we live in the world, we look and we compare. And so I try to provide things that our kids would not be missing out on, as I was sharing. So I would say, oh, they're doing this. So I'm like, oh, I want to get to do this. I want to do this. So I try to fill up my kids' schedule with something every day. And I love my kids because they're my spiritual thermostat in a sense, because one day they said, Mom, can we just stay home? We're out every single day. And then it made me realize, I was like, yeah, why are we out every single day? It's because I wanted them to have the social aspect that I thought that they might be missing out. But I realized that, they didn't need to being at home. There were 3 of them. So they were able to, explore and get along with each other, even though they're siblings. I mean, they fought, but they knew how to play with one another. When they were bored, they play games together. They create fun games together. They go out to the backyard and, they're able to develop their skills. Like my son would, use cardboard paper and make, as you can see in one of the images, he would make a robot, or my daughter would start baking, and the other one would just say, hey mom, can I open a business for like babysitting, or so each one of them, out of boredom sometimes, which is what we're missing in society, I think, the opportunity to be bored and find something to do. So that's what God's been teaching me, to be still and to hear his voice, instead of comparing with the world and catching up with the world. And of course it's really hard because not many people are homeschooling. So I said to Grace, I'm so sorry that you are a guinea pig, because she's the oldest and we're always trying new things with her. So, but thank God that I think she's okay so far. So we're our kids, we will always worry about them, I think, as parents. So I think the best thing that we do every time, like Han said, is that Itchy conference every year, and having families who are in our homeschool co-op that we can talk to and pray with one another and help us to remember why we're teaching. And there's so many resources on homeschooling for Facebook pages, and just people who are willing to give good advice and prayer for us. So that's what grounds us.
So sounds like Melody, you really jump a little bit ahead, a lot of benefit for the kid to have homeschooling. So beside what you say, that you can tailor-make the activity, you can look at your kid and see what they miss, and then you try to find some activity substitute for them. So beside that, what do you think the most benefit for your kid from Christian homeschooling? Can you tell us more a little bit, Melody?
Okay, so the question is, what is the greatest benefit of homeschooling? I would say, since I was a teacher in a public school, and I was able to see, what kids were doing in the public school and what kids were doing in our home. So I brought in part of that. I think, like in school, we teach to the middle, because, we can't teach too high academically for those who are not there yet. And then we can't be like too fast for those who are a little bit behind. So we teach in the middle. But I think for homeschooling, we can tailor-make each child's needs, and interests. So that's why it has been such a blessing. And we've been able to do projects so that they can have real life experiences. So I look fondly back, since our kids are older now, and I see that they created businesses, and we actually got to go out and sell these products that they have an interest in, and we got to serve together in elderly homes, and with their Inspire Club, their volunteer clubs, and our boys have a volunteer club too. And the ability to have time to volunteer, the ability to have time to spend like 2 months on a project. Like our kids was involved in this project where they had a history fair, and they interview all the politicians from Chicago's Chinatown, or Chicago, like Nicole Lee or Teresa Ma, the representatives. They had an opportunity to spend like 2-3 months of this time doing this, and they were able to go to the history fair in Washington, D.C. I think, of course, the public school kids got to do the same thing, but we were able to do it in our time, and not to be too stressed, and to focus more on their interests. Not saying that homeschooling's for everyone, but it is good for our kids, because we were able to spend time with God as well, and making it God focused as well.
So Han, I know you are not a teacher background. So from your perspective, what most benefit for your kid for homeschooling? Can you share?
Sure. Yeah, as Melody shared, the kids can have time, right, to do the sports, projects, also instrument and business. And I think it's all because we have the time. So think about that. If they go to school, we probably will have a few hours with them after they come back from school, and they still have a lot to do. I remember when my daughter was in public school, she was playing piano, violin before. But when she was in second grade, actually, I made her quit because she didn't have time to practice. Otherwise, she had no free time at all. She need to do homework after school and do some other projects sometime too. So, but now we have the time, like from the morning they get up to the time they go to bed. So more than 10 hours we're with them. So so we are homeschooling them. Actually, we are like discipling them, right? So not just do things. So we live together. So that way everything just come together, and with the one you think most valuable to them and the best for them. Each one of them is different. So this is it's precious, right? So nothing can buy the time we have than, if we just send them to school.
Mhm.
Yeah, so then everything else is possible if we have the time.
You know what? I suddenly thinking I would like to ask a question is, it seems that you need to be with the kid all the time. I'm just thinking, as a mom, how can you balance to kind of separate your teaching time and your restful time? So how can you two balance? Because it will be very tired for the mom. You still need to do house chore or whatever, but another role, you are a teacher too. So how I just thinking, can you share with us, how can you balance your life with this homeschooling mission? So Melody, maybe you can share first.
Okay. I think since the kids were babies, I was blessed to have other older moms share their wisdom with me and share that, you need to have your own time. And what you need to do is to set boundaries. So even from an early age, when my kids were toddlers and babies, 2 hours every day, they slept in their own beds in the afternoon, and they don't come out of their bedrooms until the 2 hours or 3 hours is done. And you can sleep or you can play, do whatever you want, but you don't step out of the door until you have that rest and quiet time. So sometimes my daughter or my son, they would just play teacher or play with their stuffed animals and create, games in their room. It's a quiet time. And that's what we respect it for one another. And we look forward to that. I would look forward to that time every day. So without that time, I don't know how I would do it, because after those 2 hours, I'm like, oh, I'm refreshed. I can cook for you guys now. I could do this, and then we can go out to the park. So having that 2 to 3 hours every single day from an early age does really help. And then when they're older, we definitely we need to have our own interests. I have my women's Bible study. We go out to eat with friends. My husband has time with me. So definitely to carve out those times, and people help us babysit. We're fortunate to have my parents nearby. So we drop them off at their house, and then we go out, and the grandparents love to spend time with the grandkids. So we have a lot of time. And of course they have their sports every day. And their different activities, so that we are able to do things on our own as well.
So how about Han? Can you share with us?
Yeah, so I think I cannot emphasize this more, because moms need their own community, right? Like moms group, like all the co-op families, because we feel tired a lot of time. We feel different things, like very disappointed or down a lot of time. But we need wisdom and also encouragement, also some practical tips that we can get from other homeschool families. That is a tremendous help. And also come to the work, I think Melody agreed too, like we train them to do chores when they were younger, right? So then each one can take care of themselves and also can contribute to the housework that, that usually we just do it on our own. If they can help, then it lets our load in, so we have more time. I remember when I was in China, I didn't know any chores at all. My mom didn't let me do anything because my main focus was to study, right? So I didn't even never wash the dishes, never sweep the floor, never cook the meal. I learned when I came here. So I think the benefits to be homeschool is we have the time, we have the, we can train them, so that make them ready and make us like have more time to enjoy the other time with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it was a really good sharing. So so last but not the least, can you share with us some Bible verses can encourage you to for this mission? So Han, do you have Bible verses you can share with us?
Yeah, so I think this one is very important for my homeschool journey. It's Philippians 1:6. So it says, "And I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." So whenever sometimes I feel like, or people ask me, should we do it or why you can continue, I always remember when I started, I was super clear that is God's calling to me, for me to homeschool. And if that's God's will, and from the experience I have, and I trust that he will bring this to completion. So there'll never be a dead end. There'll never be a wrong path, because this is the path God takes me to go with. So that help me to keep going and having confidence.
Okay, how about Melody?
Mine is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. This has been a life verse, because every time I doubt myself and say, God, are we doing this right thing for our kids? I would have to go back, like Han said, and lean not on my own understanding, but to trust God that he will make our path straight. And we will make many mistakes, which we did, but God continues to help us to walk along the path that we may see, the goal that's ahead of us.
So thank you very much. It was a really really fruitful and sharing today.